I am ready when you are.
Okay. All right, 5:03 p.m. We'll call session to order and start with a roll call.
Present.
Emily Cunningham, present.
Grady Preston, present.
Janae Oliveira, present. Rebecca Ramsey, present.
Okay, any public comment?
There were no public comments received.
And celebrations and recognitions.
So I have one, but she's not here yet. And so we'll celebrate in a little bit. With your permission, we will adjust that into the agenda whenever she's able to be here.
Excellent. We'll move on to the consent agenda items. If you have any questions about any, or if you want to motion to vote for them in their entirety.
Move to accept the agenda. A second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Consent agenda passes. We'll shift next to parent representative. Okay. Thank you, faculty representative.
I got 2 question thoughts in this meeting. My question, it was a budget question. Is there a line item budget that shows current expenditures across departments that could be distributed to every? So this is the question.
Is that how it was phrased?
That is how it was.
Can you say it one more time?
Is there a line item budget that shows current expenditures across departments? Once it's available to everyone.
Oh, just so different departments know what their budgets are? Is that what
I
you?
guess so that was where.
So that everybody knows which departments are getting what money.
Yes.
So we budget. So that's a hard one a little bit because we budget based on fund,
Yes.
not by department
Yes.
necessarily. So there are a few that have more, but typically we budget by campus
Right.
and then by fund. And then there's a few like IT, like it'll have a bigger kind of a budget for that. And that is in the line item budget that comes out, like whenever we do the individual items that goes for approval. But typically what we do is we budget based on funds,
Right.
not by individual departments. But I could probably, when we do the budget for next year, because we typically just like the public budget is that fund-based, the function code fund-based accounting. But we could probably do it out by like campus, function campus.
Yeah.
Which would be a little bit more detail for people so they could see like instruction at the secondary campus, instruction at the elementary campus, like that. So we could probably break it out like that. That would just give people a little bit more insight to how it's divided out kind of by campus level. Let me look and see what that would look like to break it out like that, just so that it doesn't become just a mush.
Right. Exactly. Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
And then other one was, I'm just gonna read the email. So I don't try to mess it up and put it in my own words. It says, "Good morning. I would like a sentiment addressed at the meeting. I'm not the only one who has expressed this, so I'm sure someone has already shared it. The committee to do something nice for teachers to help with retention." In parentheses, I forgot the name of it. Released a breakdown of why they chose to do nothing as far as the suggested items that were on the list. Then Dr. Newman did a video showing that we don't have any funds, but we did have funds to send a teeny percentage of the high school population to Louisiana for 5 days. If we are not willing to help staff with a small token due to not helping a large percentage, it doesn't make sense to only spend money on 15-ish students out of the whole student population. I don't begrudge the students the travel experience, and I'm glad they enjoyed it. I just want to show hypocrisy of the situation and how this could be affecting the morale of some of the staff. And then the last bit is, I also want to share that I'm noticing a huge difference with kiddos socializing now that we don't allow phones. I thought that was really, really cool. I've seen students interacting more and more as the year has progressed, and I think we have done a good job with the phone ban implementation.
Can I get a copy of that second email that you read aloud so that I can put it on file?
Will there be an
Well-
opportunity to respond to that during your superintendent report? Can you?
With our committee meeting.
Yeah,
Follow-up.
yeah, I think it'll be some with a committee meeting follow-up. I think the sentiment of the email is well received and understood. The scope and scale is different, and students fundraising and paying for part of their own expense and getting to go to the invitation only tournament and giving up a whole tournament.
Ticket sales.
Yeah, ticket sales for that, but giving up a whole tournament in order, so 2 tournaments instead of 3, and one of them being out of state. And so I think that's where typically whenever I get kind of questions like that, I'll go back to the director of that department. I go talk to Brian and ask him, like, how do we justify, sending this group of kids over to that one? Because that's really like, who is going to make those decisions for that one? So to go back to it, I see where they're coming from. I see it as 2 different conversations. One of them is student first expenditures, and one of them is what we're doing at the end. I think on the flip side, the list of things, the reason those are put out front is so that we don't lose traction for when we're in bond covenant, when we have funds, like not losing space of what that looks like to put money back in the pockets of our staff. I'm also being appreciative that the state put money into the pockets of over half of our staff, right? 80 plus teachers got $4,000 to $8,000, where everybody else got 1.5%. And so, again, understanding that everyone recognizes that when we have the funds to do that, and the board is putting that front and center and has publicized that, I think then that needs to stay on the front and center for whenever finances are squared and we're solid, and we have funds either through cost saving measures or through growth or through whatever, that money is going back into the pockets of our staff when it can. So it's kind of a response back to that.
Yeah, and we plan to also discuss some of that too with our finance committee update.
Well, also just, I don't believe the teacher committee that was put together under Mr. Nason, I don't think that felt hard just to keep those initiatives alive. So I think if you have a response to this email, at least to remind them that it wasn't just a flat no, we're moving on. It's still on the table pending, blah, blah, blah.
And actually that committee, most of the suggestions from the committee weren't salary suggestions. And I think if you remember, Mr. Nason specifically said, I understand we don't have funds to do big salary adjustments, but these are other things we can do. It was campus beautification, which we did. It was upgrading teacher staff rooms, which happened in a lot of places. It was recognizing some duty-free times. It was providing different incentives. It was recognizing attendance. It was like all the different things, and a lot of those things have been put in place. And so, again, in the spring, we'll provide another update for you guys on the actions that were brought from that committee report. So I think it's both and, right? I think there was a lot of things that were like not salary related that we have put in place and we have worked on and we have pushed through. Then there are things that are salary related that are still on the books and still want to do that.
So maybe on that end, we'll move to the next item. Grady, do you mind sharing the finance committee report?
Yes, yeah. So a couple of things. So one, we talked through the endowment and the need to go back through and double check the current investment policy statement as visited in several years. And we feel like as we continue to use that for students and any other potential things we can use for staff, we want to make sure that those investments are doing as they should and not being too aggressive or being too conservative, that we're doing what we need to do with those. So that's one thing. The second thing we talked about was, again, getting back into compliance with our covenant with the bank. That is a must. So we've got to make sure we get our cash on hand back to where it needs to be. So that's kind of one part of the broader picture of looking through where we are with finances to go back through and look at this list. The other thing is that we had more concrete numbers from the state in terms of what our funding is going to be finalized. And so with all of the changes that we've had between Katrina to Big 12, Region 12, and now to YYY, they felt like it would be in the best interest to go back through our budget, go through everything again.
Why
Sure.
does.
Yes, why does, yes. To go back through and double check, make sure no expense was missed, or that it was there or wasn't there, or whatever the case may be. Same way with revenue, that we're getting all of that revenue accounted for. And then with the funding of the teacher incentive allotment
Mhm.
happening, that is now then going to be able to give us the opportunity to say, okay, what do we truly have? And be able to make those decisions that can make a meaningful impact now, but that also doesn't hurt down the road. And we don't want to be in a position to where, we have a tight revenue, tight expenses, and we do something that overcommits us, and then that makes it a bigger issue down the road. So we certainly recognize and understand the sentiment of the staff and of teachers and how they feel. We talked about that exclusively too in our meeting of we don't want that to be felt that we're not doing anything, but at the same time, we've got to make sure that we have all available information that we can make the best decision with what we have to give to honor and recognize teachers and staff. So that is still front and center. We still looked at that same list again, still kind of go through again and look at what is a good broad impact, or what is a more targeted impact with those items. So those are still being discussed, and certainly understand. I wish we could have acted yesterday on everything, but we've got to make sure that we have what we can do and still meet our obligations. So,
Thanks, Grady.
sure.
Okay, we'll move on to District Improvement Committee.
Okay, we met last week, and Angie Cotton gave us a report on the TIA process, kind of how that's working and how that's growing. I think the most exciting part, and I only have my handwritten notes, I couldn't go back and find. But I believe from last year to this year, we're anticipating going from 18% of our teachers being designated to 27%, which is I think a substantial growth, and that's not only the good teachers we have here, but the work that the administration does to
Grow the teachers.
make sure that we're doing everything we need to do to get them. And there's potential for that to continue growing. The state's going to add a further level to the existing 3 levels. Not really what they are, but so there will be 4 different designations under that teacher incentive allotment. We looked at the strategic calendar and kind of felt like we've got things balanced as we kind of report out certain things throughout the year. Looked at the school calendar again, which I think everybody was in favor of. And then talked a little bit about some preliminary data that we got from Benchmark this fall. Kind of seeing some, I think the elementary data was what we had, some really good numbers from 4th grade. Challenges with staffing lead to challenges, I think, in 3rd grade, but overall, it's clear from the campus improvement plans that at least to this point, we're doing we said we would do, and we're following the path. So I think, there are things to be really proud of, the attendance rate, whatever's being done there. And I know it's a lot of work, but that's a huge deal. It's a huge deal for everything that makes a school work. It's a huge deal for the financial picture of the district. Its funding is based on that ADA rate. So I think we got to be really proud of the way that. I think, are you sharing some of this, Dr. Newman, some of the data that's in the folder? You can look and see.
I dropped it into tonight's folder too,
Okay.
just so they could have easier access. Yep.
Yeah, there's obviously areas in terms of test scores that are not where we want to be. And I do think that based on the improvement plans that the administrators put together and all that they're doing what we can in those areas. It's just imperfect system, but I do everything we can to work within it.
Thank you. And finally, facilities.
It's your last, it's your last.
Yeah. Nothing yet.
Moved over to Shaq. I got thoughts on Shaq. So I think the only thing I remember, there's a list of things that they're going to, it might come in the next meeting, just about some improvements for the, I guess, overall with the Paul Quinn, the historical, like the fountain or some of the other little things that they were thinking of. We were looking at trying to figure out when, well, I guess we can't figure out if you heard back from the city on their reimbursement to the school, where those monies could go to help, whether it's in athletics, if it's overall teacher support, just all those other different areas. The lights around campus, I know some are owned by Quinn, but sometimes they're not on. And I don't know, is there something that can be done where the city isn't in control of those?
They're owned by the foundation that owns the campus. And so
They're like a safety concern.
we just message them every time.
Mhm.
Every time they're not on. So time change is a really big problem because they're all set on timers and not necessarily dawn to dusk.
Okay.
So I'll reach out again.
The history wall, I know that there's some things that aren't yet finished. Maybe it needs to be done in its approach. So what is done, maybe you can put it up and it goes with another special event, but while we still have, the excitement behind the facility being new, the games are at home, or enjoying the games, they're winning, there's a lot of hype behind everything around the gym, but eventually that hype is going to die. Excitement is going to die. So if they can look at, I don't know where Mr. Nason is on some of that. Maybe tie it in with the plaque dedication and looking into when those will be ordered. That way you're not like, oh, we have this other event here. Oh, not time for another event. Just see what we can rope all together. But the history wall, if there's a cost issue, try to break it down into phases. What made kind of some more sense.
Looking back at that, I think one of the biggest things we were discussing was the gym floor maintenance. We are looking at what type of equipment is needed, what type of schedule we need to use this equipment on, and what that best price is. So a decision I don't believe was made, but we were talking about the
They look like Zambonis.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, gym floor
being
Zambonis.
approximately maybe $10,000 to $12,000. So it is an expensive investment, but also so is the gym floor. And so if it gets scuffed, it gets, things that we can't remove, then it just hurts the quality of it and breaks it down more over time. And one of the other things was a cover for the floor itself, being able to host other events, dances, invite someone who may want to use it, but they're going to use the floor to protect it. And we've talked about, can that be donated from other places like Baylor's volleyball team? Are there people who've used one and they're no longer using it? And then we also talked about how do we, defray some of that cost? Do we have a sponsor put their logo on it and, they pay for the mat and we put their logo on it when it's out, they get the visibility. Beyond that, I would say we also have on our list just information about the goals and about strategic plans. And we talked in our meeting as well about making sure that we continue to discuss topics and not let them roll off the list, even if it's not the appropriate time to do it at this moment, to make sure that we keep a rolling list of things that we've been asked to be mindful of as the facilities committee.
So how much is that covered then? Roughly how much is that covered for?
I don't believe we got an estimate on the cover, but the equipment that would need to be used, they had already looked into some of those options and it was pretty standard for it to be, but yeah.
So the floor cleaner is like 10 to 12,000, and that would be a piece of equipment that we would purchase.
Oh,
The floor covering, there's lots of different options that range in expenses from 20 to 50,000 for protective floor covering.
Yeah.
So it depends on how thick you want, what you're gonna allow to happen. For instance, if you did a powerlifting competition, you'd want thick padded floor.
Oh, yeah.
Versus if you just don't want drinks to spill, then you do a tarp, kind of like a tarp feel. So it just depends on how big or little, we don't have a lot of storage space, so we'd have to be able to condense it down really small and put it in a closet
Yeah.
for that one. So that was one of those things that we just made the decision, we're gonna have so much stuff athletically in there, that was not an expense that we added into that kind of initial budget for that.
I did mention to, Rashonda, because she works at Baylor. And I was a member of the Baylor Club. Baylor replaced the football field because Nike had some thing like, oh, no, you got a new picture.
Yeah.
They give that stuff to schools. So if you sign up, or I don't know how they do it, but there's some way that you can get in touch with universities, and whenever they're replacing their flooring materials, they don't just throw it away. So I think she's gonna do a check to see if maybe they have something from maybe the Farrell Center
Yeah.
or something that they could
Mhm.
donate, so.
That'd be good.
Two other things, MacArthur campus, I noticed there's still that one sign on the.
On McCartney.
Yes, it still says more. And then I noticed like when people are dropping off donations at the bin. I don't know if maybe it needs to be moved, but maybe parents need to be aware, if it's carpool, don't park there to drop off your donations, like, cause you're, you know what I'm saying? And then there was one more thing. Oh, Llewellyn, the security tarp that's around the fence, great, but for staff, it's still a visibility issue, so I don't know if it's lowered a little bit, but they can see over the fence, but people still can't see the children. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that was just a couple of concerns that I heard. But I think they're gonna. And there's still, I think, some blind spots that Llewellyn or additional analysts. Yes.
And that's a part of
The safety.
security camera evaluation.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thank you. You covered a lot of ground. Appreciate that. Okay, superintendent report.
So I wanted to kind of pull out two highlights for you guys as we're talking through it. And so for the last couple of months and for the next couple of months, you're going to hear me every time we come. I'm going to talk about finances, the financial process, the audit, as we move forward from that. So I'm going to talk about them in a slightly reverse order tonight. So the YYY onboarding. So we have signed the agreements. YYY financial advisors is on board. They're already starting with their discovery phase, which is what they call it. They're spending the month of December. We've met a couple of times already. We're going to be meet several times moving forward. And really December is when they're digging in. And they're familiarizing themselves with all of our systems and our pay scales and structures and staffing, all of that. So they're doing right now. So we've gotten them all of the access, the logins. They actually have a Rapoport email address that goes to their team. So we'll be able to communicate very seamlessly with them back and forth. So discovery is this month, and they are picking up when we get back in January. Region 12 is going to overlap them. Region 12 has been great in the transition so far. They've got a transition document that YYY uses. And so they're meeting with the Region 12 staff. And they're also meeting with myself, Melanie, and Karen, and Donna Bird. So basically all of the business side of the things here to make sure that every T is crossed and every I is dotted as we're moving through. So we don't forget to maybe give them access to one place where they need to upload a document or whatever. They're already checking with me about compliance things. Have you done this letter? Yes, we did. Have you done that? Yes, we did. Thankfully, I've done everything that they have reminded us about. So that was really good. But one of the things as we've gone through and looked at it, and I think Grady kind of alluded to it a little bit, but I want to press in just a little bit more, and it kind of ties back into the audit process. So in looking through things, there's itemized budgets, and then there's approved budgets, and then there's what's in Skyward, like what's already been like processed in there. And one of the things as I was presenting information to YYY is it's all to the good, like we're not in like discovering money in the hole, but there's a little bit of like, this is exactly how much we've asked for, and this is how much has been approved. And this is how much is in Skyward, but there's a gap in between there. And so my question back to them was, I need to make certain that the ballparks that we budgeted are as close to the anticipated actuals as we can, because what I don't want to do is end up in May and we're like, oh, we had 60,000 extra dollars that we budgeted for, but we didn't actually spend. I don't want to wait that long until we know that. And so that's one of the things they're really great about doing is projections and analysis. And so they're doing their discovery and then we'll be pressing into that. At the same time, we should be submitting our fall, it's called the resubmission, but our fall numbers that have all the teacher data in it, which gives TEA the information to give us the reimbursement for the teacher retention allotment. So right now they've only pocketed in about 100,000, but we should be due about 316, give or take, depending on the final numbers for staffing. So when they correct that number with the fall submission, that number will go in our school funding model. So between the evaluation by YYY and us bringing back to you guys a tight budget and what we get from TRA, as soon as those numbers come together and come back to the board, then you guys will have, this is confident, this is where we are. I also believe at that point, if what I think is going to happen with both of those numbers, we will actually be in compliance with the bond covenants, with still a little bit of money left over, not hundreds of thousands of leftover, right? But I think we'll be able to be in bond covenants for cash on hand within a couple of months. And we've already made a pretty significant movement with that. So I think we're not there yet, but I think by the time we get those numbers settled out, I think we'll have met cash on hand. I think we will be at that point with the revenue over that. We'll be able to meet those bond covenants. And then I think there'll still be a little bit of money where the board will be able to actually make some decisions for this year. So at that point, the discussion will be, what can we do this year? And then what do we need to do to plan for next year? Because if we're not careful, we spend the money this year, we have nothing to do any raises or anything at all, right, in subsequent years. So that is the other piece that YYY is really good at. That was one of they were suggested to us, is that planning piece. So if you want to have money, if we know this parking lot is going to need to be done 3 years from now, what do we need to allocate this year, next year, and the next year? If we want to be able to do a minimum raise of like 2.5%, 3% every year, okay, what is that going to look like? What do we need to allocate for, considering we're going to have essentially flat revenue from attendance and enrollment? So I'm really excited about them coming on board. I think we're going to learn a lot during their discovery process because they bring harder specific knowledge from across Texas and even outside of Texas as well. So like I said, discovery this month, meeting with them multiple times a week, but formally the whole team is meeting with them each week, and we'll continue that over the break. So I'll meet with them over the break so that when we come back in January, they'll be ready to go. The audit process. So we are nearing the end of the audit process. We have almost everything in and submitted. The last thing we're working on right now, they had a couple more questions about some staffing stuff. And then we're working on two things. One, the final valuation for the valuation, dollar valuation for the gym. So that's after the owner supplied items go in, taking up stuff that shouldn't be capitalized, like shower curtains, right? Like taking those costs out. So we're still working on the final value for that. I am anticipating two findings. And I just want to be open and transparent with you guys. The level of the finding, the auditors haven't dictated yet. But I'm anticipating two findings, and they both have to do with this time during transition. So one of them is the gym, when it was brought into actual service, it wasn't moved from construction in progress to fixed asset to hit the depreciation schedule when that happened. Which is interesting because it wouldn't have even really happened until the end of July or the first part of August. But because it wasn't moved in and it wasn't caught by, I guess, me or Region 12, or we didn't have a CFO, right? Because it wasn't caught before it was submitted to the auditors, the scope of the project that should have been moved from in progress to fixed asset is long. So that may be a considerable finding. Now, granted, it's one journal entry, 1 month of like prior to the end of the fiscal year, but that could be a pretty significant finding from the auditor's point of view. we don't know for sure what that's going to look like yet. So we're still working through that with them. When I say pretty significant, it could be to the tune where TEA looks at it and says the best you can get is a C on your charter first. It depends on what level the auditors give it for that. And they don't have like a certain threshold, like, oh, it's above this dollar value. This is what it is. The way they look at it is because that wasn't done correctly, meaning in the timely fashion before it was closed out for the year, because that wasn't done correctly, could that have led the board to make different decisions with finances because it wasn't accurately reported for that?
The dollar amount is so big because it's the gym.
Right. Well, and the board in that moment. So when you're looking at finances, you're seeing construction in progress, your brain naturally would think, oh, well, we're still spending money on this project. When it moves into fixed assets, it is done. Like we are no longer spending money on that project. And so whether it's pro or negative, whether it's like, oh, we would have had more money, or, oh, we shouldn't have had money because we could still be spending it. Either way, it could change the way that the board made financial decisions because that was a big chunk of money that moved from construction in progress. So I don't know exactly what that's going to look like. It'll be in the audit when it comes through for here. We know it's going to be a finding. The question of what level of finding it's going to reach and how that's going to impact our charter first is one. The other findings, so the accounting regulations from several years ago changed, and the way that TEA pays for on behalf of the teacher retirement system, the TRS, for charter schools changed. And so in 24, we were supposed to have changed how we reported it to report it as an in-kind contribution from TEA. So we didn't change it in 24. The audit didn't catch it then. So then all of 25, we were supposed to be coding it. We didn't code it in that, and it didn't get caught. So when Region 12 took over, closed out the books in September, our Region 12 rep was like, hey, we're not coding this. We're supposed to be coding this. And so fixed it from September moving on. Oh, and I just want to say about the gym. The gym has already been fixed. Like the journal entry's been done. It's been shifted over. It's been brought in. So the finding was found in last fiscal year. It's already been fixed. And it's a singular occurrence. Not like we bring gyms on every year, right? So it's a singular occurrence, already been fixed. The same with this one. It's already been fixed. The problem was it should have been done a year and a half ago and last year, and it wasn't done. Now, from the initial conversation with them, the impact is not significant because it's an in-kind, it's kind of a wash. It really wouldn't change the way that the board would make decisions financially. So it may not be considered a significant finding. It may be just a control finding, like the regulations weren't kept up to date in staff training by the bookkeeper or by the CFO. And so it's a control finding for that. But I want to be as transparent as I possibly can. I've been super open with you guys about what this transition of a key member and some of the things that we found that, kind of have been lacking and slowed down a little bit for all of that. And so both findings in their report will say have already been remedied. So it will say these have already been remedied, these have already been fixed. We'll move forward.
It's not TA coming in when they're looking at a finding or something and they're going, oh, Rapoport, you got a bad impression right there, or you mismanaged monies, or it's just more of the way it needed to be reported, not so much that there was misappropriation of funds.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so it won't come out as a misappropriation of funds, fraudulent activity, inappropriate use of funds, like none of those are going to be the finding. What it's going to come out is you didn't move stuff on your books the way you should have. Not like money disappeared or anything like that. So it still is a finding. And depending on the label the auditors put on the finding, it'll still impact our charter first. So I just want to be clear, like, I don't like for that to come down the road and us be surprised about that. So once I know from the audit, and you guys will know, I'll know a couple of days before you do. So you'll get the draft audit, like when it'll come through. But the auditors have said it has already been fixed, and that will be in the audit. It has already been fixed. We will have to do a corrective action plan. Our corrective action plan is going to be that we have hired a financial service that is going to come through and audit and track, and they are charter specific, and they will recognize these charter specific rules. And that was one of the reasons why the gym coming on board wasn't caught a little earlier, is because traditional schools use different like object codes to tuck in stuff. Charters use these and traditional schools use these. So our Region 12 partners are used to traditional schools. And so they were
Mhm.
watching and checking all these, not checking the way charters do it. And so, yeah. So anyway, it was pretty hard news talking with them with that. Like they called me and they were like, hey, we just need to give you a heads up. And so I talked to the audit committee about that. And I just wanted to bring it here. Again, I'm not sure exactly what the label's going to be when the audit comes through. The corrective action plan will be that this has already been remedied and these are the things we're going to put in place. And this is the firm that we've hired to be a partner to help with. So learned a new term, staffing disaster recovery. So we do disaster recovery for emergencies. We do disaster recovery for safety and security. Yeah, and so anyway, so that's one of the things that YYY is also going to help us work out is in different positions across the district is what is our staffing disaster recovery plan? And that's really what caught us in these last 3 months is just shifting of people and moving of stuff and what. So anyway, those are the two updates I wanted to give you. YYY, really excited. Like the more I talk to them, the more their knowledge base just kind of blows me over and what they're going to be able to offer and do moving forward. So as we move forward through December and into the end of January, so it may not be ready by January's board meeting, but into the end of January, they will have their review that'll come back. It'll come back to you guys through the form of a budget amendment with descriptions and conversation. And potentially they're going to come and like review, like walk through our district and be at a board meeting and walk you through kind of where we've identified, where we've tightened up. I have to say, like our team across the district is doing some really incredible work to find cost saving measures. I chatted with our food service director and he's already saved well over $100,000 so far this year. Now, granted, we doubled our costs over the last 2 years, but he's been able to cut those back and cut those back and cut those back. And he expects even more through the spring. And so it's just like, I have stories like that across the district, 10,000 here, 7,000 here. Hey, we use this software one time a year. Like we could do other things with that. So let's cut that 6,000. And it's just people being smart about funds that we're using and are they efficient and are they effective and do we have to? And if we don't have to have them, then let's save that money to be able to do other things for our staff, to be able to keep staff. So I'm really excited about that. So I just wanted to keep you kind of up to date on what we're doing with that. Happy to answer any questions over any of those things, or if I forgot anything, audit committee, if you think that there's things I need to add.
Is there a way that you could send me what they're questioning and why they're very particular about one journal entry not being done? I just would like to look at that.
Yeah.
Because my firm does,
Some of those things.
yes, does school audits. And I just would like to get their opinion on how significant.
Yes,
So I mean, if I could have the kind of the language they're using,
absolutely.
that way I could talk to them
Yeah.
about it.
And as a board member, I can even connect you in with the lead auditor
Oh, okay.
and because they're your auditors, right? So I can connect you in with the lead auditor and she can answer too.
Yeah, I talked with her on Friday too, so I'll share some other things out.
Great.
But
Great.
Thanks, Grady.
sure.
And it's sad because, you come into a new establishment and most
Mhm.
people are like, oh, that's just what we always do. Instead
Yeah,
of being
definitely.
open to new and discovery. So kudos to them for that.
Mhm.
Here.
Mhm.
Well, I think that was one thing we talked about was that, I think we all realize the reality of kind of what our budget is and what it looks like, what our expenses are. What can we do to, continue to be who we are and still be able to serve students and everybody else involved. So yeah, it's been good.
Okay. Thank you for those of you who completed the board self-evaluation. Thanks to Grady. We were a couple months overdue for that. And so I think she's going to pull it up now.
Maybe I was confused because I know I did it.
I know you did it,
And
but it's
when I
not in there.
looked, it's good.
Yeah. I don't know.
So you fill it out now, it might jump our numbers or lower our numbers, either way.
It's all the way down.
That's okay.
So
Well, I will say, overall, I'll talk slow, Chiquinta. Overall, our overall score is the highest since we started this board self-evaluation,
agree.
a year and a half ago. So that's good. Let's see if we,
We were up on just about everything.
yes,
So no reds, but definitely higher numbers than.
And the way that it's shaded, it 3.5 and up get a green.
Mhm.
That was kind of the threshold that the board said it's out of a 4.0 scale. And then 3 and down is a red. So it's not necessarily by ups and downs.
Okay,
Yeah.
It's by, are you above a 3.5? That was really what the board threshold was.
great. Thank you.
Below a 3, not acceptable.
So I guess looking at, I mean, we scored lower on ending in a timely fashion, but I think that's just the season we're in. Trainings,
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I think there's a few, the ones on road, items 18 and 21, I think they're probably related to each other. So dividing responsibilities equitably between all directors as much as possible. And stepping in to help accomplish tasks without having to be asked. Sometimes I know that's unclear what those might be as a board member, but just something to be aware of looking for opportunities, even if it means, visiting a campus or some participating in events or going to an athletics game, or I don't know if you have other suggestions on what that might look like in a helpful way.
Yeah, well, I will say in my opinion, what I see, especially on those 2 line items, the growth over time is the functionality of the committees. And so I think that huge jump is because now we have more ownership of board members with their committees and the actions of their committees. And so I would expect you guys to get more comfortable over time. And then the committees to bring action to their peers here, right? Like, this is where we need to go. Hey, I need you guys to be sure and do this. I need you to come to that. We're sending out this survey. I need you to help out with that. So I think that is where some of that comes from. But I think the big jumps on both of those really are because our committees have gotten so much stronger as we move through time. So I'm pleased with that. Ending in a timely fashion, I think strategic planning has been really hard.
Yeah.
But it's good. Much better on attendance. Like, those were some of the things that I just called out that I echoed.
Starting on time.
The same way with you guys have.
Um,
I say I hear horror stories about other boards not
Exactly.
staying in their lane.
Yep.
I don't, you guys are amazing at that. You committee talk when you need to committee talk and dig deep. And then when we're here at the board meetings, you're staying in your lane and driving in really what your purpose is. And I think that's been really great. And I've also heard that sentiment from Region 12 as they've walked through the strategic planning conversations. They said sometimes it's like herding cats when they're doing trainings at other places because they want to talk about where the sidewalk is and what time the football games start on Saturday, and and they want to move that, or they want to get rid of this coach, or they want to. And he's like, your board is really like on the vision. It's been great.
Coming to meetings prepared, it's the first time we've hit above 3.5 on that. Just a demeanor of respect and good working relationships, I think. Anybody have some comments or questions or suggestions based on what you see?
I think I agree. Committee work has strengthened everybody's efforts and where they feel invested in their part outside of the room. Also think it was the accountability that started in the room that began when our newest chair came on and had an opportunity to speak to us. And I think when we were last speaking with TEA, like these type of team building and being honest, I think people receive feedback a little bit more about the job they're doing when we're not all together. And so you set that in motion and saying we want to evaluate ourselves and go back and continue. But I think the time that we spend doing strategic planning, that we're going to events together, we're sitting together and talking about, how can we participate or just noticing. I think we've had a lot more pride in the work that we do and accountability for it because we want to keep the bar high. But it was the fact that you put the bar out there. It was like, we're at the bar right now. And so we really didn't know. We thought everybody felt good about everything. And so I think it's just given us a way in everything that we've done for people to be able to show what they want to do, to show up when they can show up, and then to look at their team as, I need you to show up for me sometimes too. And so I think I would even say to Shaquenta, to come back and we talk about things like fundraising and bring up to the group, we need support in the fundraising. We may be having ideas and discussions, but we need each of you to pick up the mantle and take it outside the board as well. So I think outspoken board members have also contributed to us being better.
And I would just say, as we're looking to fill some pretty big shoes,
Yeah.
no comment on the size of your feet. But as we're looking to fill, as we're looking to fill some pretty big shoes, recognizing that we want to find people that understand the mission of our district, that will put in the time, the effort, and the thinking and the buy-in for that as we move forward. So please be sure that you're pulling together names, getting them out of myself or Emily, so we can answer their questions, potential candidate questions, so that we can find somebody to fill. It's an at-large position. So any community member that can come in, we just want to make sure that A, that they understand Rapoport Academy, and B, that we make sure and keep a really diverse, not only in experiences, not only in race and ethnicity, not only in gender, but life experiences and styles. Like, we really want to make sure that our board can reflect our district. And so I think you guys have done a great job growing. I just want to make sure that we continue to do that.
I'm
Yeah.
just a yes person and they will hire to do homework.
Do you have a recommendation for your?
I did.
I'll just say, anybody that you have,
There's work, like,
here's work.
and everyone and like, they're busy.
It's a work.
Yeah.
We get it, you
Yeah.
know,
Yep.
between kids, spouses,
Yep.
family, illness, you fill in the blank. People want to go home. So it's going to have to be someone that doesn't mind burning the candle at both ends. I mean, it's just being honest, you know, so.
This has to be their passion project. It has to be their
It has to be
right.
a
Like,
love of service.
There's a lot about all of you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for that, sir.
spin that around.
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
Get those names over there.
Well, and while we're on this topic, I mean, Chiquinta, I'll just give you the floor. If you had any, oh, yes, yeah.
So we didn't do celebrations at the very beginning because we have a celebration.
Oh.
So this just says in grateful appreciation to Chiquinta Hill for outstanding service, commitment, and support of Rapoport Academy's public school, a board member from 2023 to 2025, and it's in it. You just take a quick second and I'll take a picture. Okay.
Yeah.
I got it.
If you'll just line up here.
Absolutely.
Line up here, face this way. Our resident health and services.
One without you, we'll get one with.
One with that, one. Step over here right now. Okay, everybody. Can I do like? One with that, one.
No, no, hold on, sorry, I was, oh.
There you go.
We'll start with that.
All right, Desi, come here and let me get one with that.
I heard. I walked in and I was like, bring your tissue. I'm like, "Oh, tissue." You even feel like you ran it. Up with.
I'm glad I live close.
Short drive. She doesn't get much after.
Chiquinta, do you have any, not last words, that's not. No, I don't know.
No,
Anything you want to say?
I want to just thank everyone for all of your hard work. It has been wonderful, tough, yes, but all of you have really, I would say, changed the entire trajectory of the board that I've ever, even when I wasn't on the board, I've seen a complete 180. So I challenge you to continue to show up the way that you have been. I know you're new. And keep your voices open. Don't be afraid to speak up on something. If it's something you don't agree with, it's okay, you know?
Yep.
But just keep showing up, keep being open, driving ideas. And I do need someone to take my access to the fundraiser, since that's going to be a living, breathing, ongoing thing.
Yep.
So someone.
We've got a couple of different things that will stop and move and click and shift.
Okay, well, but other than that. You have my number, keep in touch.
Yes.
Thank you so
And
much.
we just moved her to a different committee.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
she-
That's good. Good. Yes.
I'm very excited about that.
Yeah.
Okay, so on that
Speaking
note,
of Shaq.
Yep.
Speaking of Shaq, so you had both a resolution and bylaws, in there. And so, now that charter schools are required to do it, it comes with some specific regulations. One of those regulations is that the bylaws are reviewed and approved by the board. The other regulation is that the members of Shaq are actually reviewed and approved by the board. So, that's what you have in front of you for the next two agenda items. You have the bylaws, and then you have both the resolution for Shaq and which does include the membership list for who's on that one. And so ideally, that has been, it should be in there.
Oh, I see it. Okay.
Yeah, it should be, it's on the bottom, I think, of the resolution. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like scroll down past the resolution.
Search by agenda.
Files board resolution for Shaq.
Oh,
It's the one that has the.
Find it.
I said I saw it earlier.
Okay.
Yes, there it is.
Yeah. So if you guys have any questions about those, I can try to answer those. That is SJ Menifee's brainchild. She's doing a great choice.
And I was just gonna say.
I think you were just a new app.
Okay.
You were a
I
new.
think she did that before I was on.
do we vote every time membership shifts or?
So we can do it on the quarters
Okay.
as membership shifts. I don't think we're required to do it. It's a minimum annual.
Okay.
So I don't think we're required to move it in and out
Mhm.
as it goes, but probably what we'll do is on the quarter as we have folks come in or head out. Then we'll do an update. And it would just come through a consent agenda unless a board member wanted. It's first time. We would need to have any comments, questions, or it actually does have to be approved as two separate. Now you can make a motion for both if you want to, but it does have to have two separate votes.
I make a motion that we approve the SHAC resolution and membership along with the bylaws as presented.
Second.
Both of them?
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
What question related to that? So next quarter, we will receive another list and her name will be on the list and we will have to vote it.
Yes, it will probably be just in the consent agenda. It'll say something like Student Health Advisory Committee roster update.
Mhm.
And then it would just say these people have rolled off, this person will have rolled on. So it would be more like in consent agenda, because it's just being adjusted.
All right, student progress measures.
Okay,
Yeah.
So, I'm all about kids and pantries and snacks and stuff like that. I'm so excited and so glad that they were able to roll out the notice here. They are having Shepherd's Heart come like once a month, I believe now. So families that may be in need, instead of everyone like, hey, can you donate? Can you donate? Families would be able to show up just before their school pickup, so take supplies and stuff home. So very excited.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying
Yeah.
that.
there's lots of really good things.
Hmm.
The note on. Okay, so student progress measures. So I actually dropped these in for you guys to be able to take them and review them and ask questions. Not necessarily to dig through all of these details tonight, although we can, if you've already looked at some of them. If you want quick access in our drive, there's a document that says for the December meeting. If you don't want to have to chase, I've got it up here. If you don't want to have to chase them, you can just look on there and there's an attendance report. So this is attendance by 6 weeks. So I'm going to pull it up here real quick. Because I think Neil kind of gave a. Oh, why? There. They were having some IT troubles with it and now it's not. So you can pull it up there. We're improving our attendance. Almost every campus within 600ths of a point, right? Was at 96%, which is big growth over where we were even just a few years ago. And so that's really exciting. In the STAR May to May document, this one is all of the subcomponents, or in your meeting drive, I put in just the May to May elementary with benchmarks. You can see it up here on the agenda list, the Quinn with benchmarks and the Meyer. That's a lot of data to digest. So what I'd like for you guys to do is, that's homework, right? Is go and look through that data look at the attendance data, go and look through those 3 different pages that are right up here again. Go look through that data and see highs and lows. Again, we went through that with the district improvement committee. And you'll see some places where there's big growth. For instance, I believe it's 3rd English language arts, the fall benchmark of this year versus the small fall benchmark last year. There was a big jump. And that we're implementing a new curriculum. Typically you see dips when you implement new curriculum, but we're seeing some positive movement in that. So you'll see different places across the district where it's a little bit weaker. And the places where we haven't seen big growth, we're talking about intervention plans, student-specific plans, what we're doing to press in with teachers, what we're doing to press in for lab classes, or the what I need, the win time at elementary. So if you have questions about any of those, I'll connect you right in with the campus. So you can hear what we're doing about which piece of that. So that's kind of homework, is to go through those. And then go back over to this one. And then the other one is new data that you haven't seen before. And it's information that I pulled together. Yeah, it kind of shows up here. But it's a 3-year discipline report. Hang on just a second. Okay, so this is multi-pages, and what I want to call it is just the format so that you can go look through the data and see what speaks out to you. So at the top of each page, it'll tell you the campus. So it says elementary or middle school or high school. Then it'll have a list of all of the discipline violations that were coded in the last 3 years. Then on the right-hand side of each of those lists, it'll give you categories. So it'll say, for instance, the race, African-American, Hispanic, other, and white, or it'll say male and female, or it'll be the grade level, or then year over year. So just trying to give you multiple ways to look at discipline data over the last 3 years. It's more meaningful when we look over a 3-year period than just what's happened so far since, for instance, August of this year. So that again is information for you to take and read through. So 3 different data points for you to read through so that either when we come back in January, I can pull your questions into this board meeting and we can focus on the things you guys think are most important, or we can meet, or I can send you directly into the campus to ask about specific things. So you've got academic progress monitoring data, you've got attendance, which is very brief, but the attendance report, and then you also have the discipline reports. So dig through them, look through them, digest them, email me with questions. Again, if you need me to dig deeper, or if you want to highlight questions at the January board meeting, that's what that's for.
At your convenience, would you recreate the PDF, the widen the columns, the percentages were?
Oh, did it clip off at the bottom? Absolutely.
Thank you.
Mhm. Sure.
Is it my words?
Yep.
A fair or safe assessment? And looking at some of the infractions that they are stemming from underserved populations.
Meaning the infractions because the child is underserved?
And maybe if home life isn't all that great, or maybe there's,
Sure.
you know.
Yeah, sure. There's all sorts of reasons why certain infractions might be higher or lower. One of the things I would just caution is don't forget our school demographics. So just because you have a higher percentage of minority students, for instance, getting discipline infractions, doesn't mean we're off base because we have a higher percentage of minority students enrolled at Rapoport Academy. So you would want to make sure that we're reflective across what we have. And so the campuses already look at discipline data when they do their student support programs, when they do their analysis. The deans of students look at data and they already look at attendance. So this was just pulling like a singular 3-year report to give you guys kind of an idea of where we are. But I'll update those and then I'll just update it right here on this document so that you guys have that for the percentages. So that's homework. Take the data, read through it, ask questions, and we can come back. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, compared to finding them.
I know, but yeah. Gum ends up on the tables, under the tables, on the floor, stuck in the rug, stuck in the hall, stuck in the stairs, in the bathroom,
Gotcha.
in somebody else's hair.
No, I'll take it back.
So, yeah, yeah.
They're not supposed to be chewing gum in school.
There, that is a level one, and it typically is when it's become a problem.
Okay.
Like, I've given you a warning, keep your gum in your mouth, like that sort of stuff. I don't know that it's one that we use that often anymore. So, but again, this is 3 years. We've done some adjustments in the last couple of years, but I wanted to give you guys just an overview of what is in our system for the last 3 years. So take that, study that. That is your homework. Send me questions that you want me to call back out at the board, or that you need more information on, or that you want me to dig into in this public format. I'm happy to do so. As you can tell, it would take hours if we went through all those details. So this is your chance to take that information and digest it and bring it back. Okay. All right.
Okay, and then finally, strategic planning updates.
Yes. So Region 12 was going to come and present this last little bit, which is this is their like training part of it. But really, when we got down to it, what they wanted to tell you is what I'm about to tell you, which is what we're doing right now to work on your strategic plan. So at the last meeting, you guys went through and finalized the initiatives, right? So they've kind of wordsmithed those just a little bit. And then they, in this document, again, this is the for December meeting. It's also in your regular drive. But when you click on that document, there's a RAPS implementation planning document. And I just want to walk you through that so that you can see what we're working on right now. This is not finalized. It is not complete. Region 12 has given us through the end of the first week of January for each initiative lead to come in and update their milestones. We've gone ahead and added the 6 initiatives that we already had in the academic strategic plan. So those folks are going to come back in and add their milestone and measures as we move through this. So this is just for you to kind of keep an eye on, to know what to be expecting as you receive your final strategic plan version, your draft in January. So when you come to your January meeting, these will all be filled out and this will be provided. So there's a couple of reasons we're doing this. One, yes, you already know your initiatives. So we have the new initiatives and we have the ones that are coming up from the academic strategic plan. Within each of those, we wanted to give you guys insight for what the initiative leads are going to be working on periodically. Then when they come to the different committees or to the board to give you updates, it will be aligned ideally with what you've already seen in the strategic plan. Because the reality is, instead of just having a checkbox, it's done, what we really want to be making sure of is, are we doing the things leading up to the checkbox so that the checkbox happens? So each initiative lead is working through these. So you can see the name of the different initiative owners, the partners for those owners. On the left, if you're looking at the document, on the left-hand side, there's a tab that says agenda, and then there's a tab that says implementation. The implementation tab is the one that you really want to spend time looking through. And again, it's not required to be finalized until the end of the first week of January. That's when Region 12 is going to pull that and then start working on the document for you guys. So if you look through this document, you'll see all the different initiatives. So there's the Envision Student Experience Statements, the outcome goals that are in there for you guys. And then we move down to what the different initiatives are. So each one you'll see key actions, timeline, the person responsible, and the anticipated completion date for that milestone. So for instance, we have the underneath the strategic priority talent, right? So this is the one for onboarding, professional growth, retention strategies, and all of that. So this is one of the ones that Katrina and I were kind of working on before she rolled out. And so we'll keep moving from that one. The next one is the pathways, pipelines, and partnerships. So we'll work on that one. Angie Cotton is working on the teacher incentive allotment. Well, that's already well underway. So what she's working on is, what are the cyclical milestones that program needs to be meeting as we move forward? What are the monthly, quarterly, semesterly check-ins that we need to have? So you'll see she's already plugged in what the different pieces of that are going to look like. And so we'll tag the person responsible and the anticipated completion date for each of those, which programs that are already established, the completion date has happened. These are review dates or these are update dates. So if you keep going down through that, underneath the integrated student support systems, right? So you'll this is the special populations one. So if you look at the thicker green bar, if you're looking up on the screen up there, that's the actual initiative. So that's one of the new ones. So that is Christina Fuller. We actually walked through this one as a team together. So you'll see it's complete all the way through. This was our example that we did. So you can see like, this is her timeline. This is what we're trying to do. So needs assessments, then identify the current support. So what are the needs? What do we currently have? Identify the gaps between the two, investigate best practices to fill those gaps, create the support systems based on the needs, implement the new systems, conduct annual reviews from that. So the thought is that these details, so you'll have the strategic plan, which is just going to have those big categories, the big initiative leads, but then the board is going to have these additional details underneath it that says this is the activities that are going to be happening all along the way for these different initiatives. So you can see the work that should be done as we're moving forward. Then, as I set up cadence meetings, so check-in meetings with each initiative lead, this is what we'll be checking through. Okay, you're supposed to have already done this. Where are you with that? What's your next steps? What do you need help with? What do you need support on? So Region 12 wanted me to make sure, A, that you have access to this document so you can see it, and B, so that you know, even though they're not collecting more data and creating new initiatives with you tonight, because we've been through all of the levers, this is the work that's happening behind the scenes right now with all of your initiative leads, so that in January, they can come back to you with ideally a draft for any final touch-ups, last minute things, changes, corrections, shifts that we need to make in January. So when you get here in January, or really the second week in January, you'll be able to look through here and say, okay, so what exactly are we going to do in leadership capacity building? Okay, that's the one that was the align, I'm reading off here, the align expectations for engaged classrooms. So that's a multi-year initiative. So what Jennifer is already looking at is we are nearing the end of the initial implementation of a 3-year cycle. So we need to start looking at the next 3-year cycle and what does it look like? So even as we're starting to roll one, we're starting to plan for the next kind of 3-year cycle from that. So you'll see she's already put a lot of information about what are we going to do for this? What are we looking at? What are our step back meetings? How do we identify what the next need is within engagement? What is that next piece that we're going to plug into for that? So you can see the wide bands, the green bands are all of the different initiative leads. And then you can see the tasks underneath each of those.
Where the CFO is listed, would that be YYY?
So yes and no. So more than likely where the CFO is listed, it will be superintendent / YYY. Because ultimately YYY is a contractor to come in. So you would need a staff person with YYY, but it's going to be similar to,
The finance meeting involved in some.
they'll review all of the work that YYY is doing. But the initiative lead, that's definitely going to be superintendent / YYY. But it's the same with like pathways, pipelines, and partnerships. SJ Menifee and I are leading it because she doesn't have authority to do all of the changes and things that we need to, but she's the marketing communications person and she's the logical person to do a lot of that conversation and planning for how we're going to make outreach into different places. And so it'll be very similar to that. Now the onboarding one is definitely a strong part for YYY because they have onboarding systems at their other client schools. And so they have some pretty strong ideas for checklists and things that need to be in the system, possibly even ways to track it within Skyward already so that it alerts us when things haven't gotten done or haven't gotten completed. So those are some of the things where they'll take a heavy lead because they have the capacity and they have the. Yes, ma'am. To answer your question,
Okay.
Some of them will say, like you can see here, it says new CFO partner. So they'll review all this stuff. So the person responsible, I will be making sure that they've reviewed it, but they'll be presenting the information back to us. So that is the work that is going on right now in the last couple of weeks and in the next few weeks into the first part of January. Region 12 is really confident that they'll be able to pull this information, give initiative lead feedback, and then have that draft to you guys in January, which would allow us to use your draft in January as we're working through budgeting for 26-27. We would have the new strategic plan from you guys for the February proposal. So in February, we do revenue expense salary budgets typically for the next year. So by February, we would have your new strategic plan with all of these different initiatives to help us drive to make sure that we're spending the money on these things that we need to spend in order to get it done. We'll have these milestones and check-ins. We'll have these check back meetings with the initiative leads as we move forward for the next 3 years. So questions about this document? You kind of have several different homework pieces, really. Merry Christmas, right, guys? So lots of data. And I think some of the things that I would love to hear from you guys, either between now and the January meeting or at the January meeting, is there's lots of data in here. What data do you want to focus on? We've got in this one, in this document here, the strategic planning document, right? Right at the very beginning, you've got 3rd grade, 8th grade, and CCMR, right? Like those are your hard numbers that you're looking at, but those measures are only taken once a year, right? Once a year, and they're usually late whenever we get them back from the state. There's lots more data that I've just given you tonight, whether it's by race, ethnicity, discipline, whether it's attendance data, lots more academic data. And so if there's other places that you would like to set bars or thresholds, if there's other places that you would like to spend more time in a public meeting discussing or digging into, very happy to do that. There's so much data. I just want to make sure that you guys are looking at what you want to look at and that we're discussing at this meeting what you feel like is important for y'all's decision making.
Because that would play a role, like what you were saying, in February for the revenue.
Yes.
Okay.
So the only hesitation in being able to provide you a revenue expense salary budget would be is if we don't have the FSP estimates back. Yes, at that point. And so at that point, we would have to push off a little bit because we wouldn't have updated information to be able to do that. But we will have the analysis from YYY. So current year budget projections for future year budget, we just wouldn't have the difference in that teacher retention allotment. Everything else should be pretty stable. Moving forward from that. Any other questions? That is all the agenda items I have.
I'll entertain a motion to dismiss or to adjourn. Oh,
So there's no board training. Because I was thinking I needed to go and do, even though it's not a meeting, and turn it back into you.
No,
What we talked about was in lieu of.
what we talked about